Welcome back, and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. I am Kenneth Shark Kinney, your host and Chief Shark Officer. Let me tell you first about two amazing sponsors who make this show possible. Let's talk about Inbound. From marketing to sales and commerce to CX, Invoca's active conversation intelligence platform enables revenue teams to create better buying experiences, drive more leads, and increase revenue. Trusted by top brands like Dish Network, Mayo Clinic, Mutual Omaha, and ADT, the Invoca team is doing some amazing work in turning conversational data into automated action to enhance digital touchpoints and human interaction. Now let's talk about Outbound. I hope that you'll take a look at Drips, the founders of conversational texting, where they use conversational AI to help you reach customers where they're most responsive, and that's on their phones. And working with major brands like 3-Day Blinds, Liberty Mutual, Credit Repair, and Gainsco, Drips is leading the way for some of the biggest brands in the world to improve engagement rates and outcomes for their prospects and customers. And now, back to the show. So I made a friend some time ago on Clubhouse, and then I met her in person at the annual National Speakers Association's conference. I'd heard a lot about her being held in high esteem by other speakers, read one of her books, which I thought was a great read, and then really started thinking more about my own speaking business and the mechanics that go with it. But I ask myself often, does the speech begin and end at the keynote, or are there more ways to simply book more business and make money speaking? Lois Creamer is a speaking coach and recognized expert in the speaking industry, the author of Book More Business, Make Money Speaking, and she works with speakers, consultants, and experts who want to book more business and make more money and fully monetize their intellectual property. And on this episode, we'll discuss the speaking industry, how many different vehicles we can use to drive your intellectual property to the marketplace, the National Speakers Association Influence Conference, Clubhouse, the Great Caesar and Hotel Wi-Fi, hybrid events, streams of income, narrowing your topic niche, the arch, and a lot more. So let's tune into a Book More Business coach with an obvious choice for a favorite shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Lois, thank you so much for joining us today on A Shark's Perspective. If you would, tell us a little bit about your story, your background, your career to date.
Well, just a fascinating tale, Shark. I run a company and have for 20 years called Book More Business, working with speakers, experts, and consultants who want to book more business, make more money, and monetize their message. And I've been doing this for quite a while. Never had planned on starting my own business. Kind of totally came into this accidentally. And I was staying home with my daughter. I had a corporate career that I left when I adopted my daughter, stayed home for a number of years, and then got a call from a professional speaker who lives here in St. Louis, where I live, inviting me to come and run his business. And we had some conversations, and I said, I'm not a fit. I don't want to work full time. I, this, that, and the other. But I said, you sound like a great guy. And
how dare you say that? Why don't you just reinvent yourself as an expert and go appear on Clubhouse every day?
I'll tell you. And I told him, best of luck to you. He called back 10 minutes later and he said, would you have lunch with me? And I thought, well, I've been out of the marketplace for a while. It'd be good for me to have lunch. So we had lunch. I ended up working for him for a number of years. We came to we came to a like mind about what I needed and what he needed. And it was the start of working in the professional speaking industry on the business side. And a number of years later and many opportunities later, I decided to start Book More Business. So that's what I do. That's, kind of I've made it a long story, but that's how I got into this, totally by accident. But I absolutely love what I do.
Yeah, but you never really aspired to be the person directly on stage speaking.
No, I never did. I am the person who, when a speaker has a program, knows their expertise, has a program, and has the presentation skills. I don't do any of those things. They come to me to monetize it. And I used to do some programs for corporate sales teams, some sales programs. I don't do them anymore. The only speaking I do now is to groups of professional speakers. And so, who knew? Who knew, Shark? I sure didn't.
Well, to your credit, and most of the people I know that know you, we'll talk about well-respected speaking coaches in this business, and your name comes up often. Oh, you got to meet Lois. You got to talk to Lois. And I've
Thank
heard
you.
that quite a few times. But also, to your credit, you're not somebody who's also a speaker. There's a lot of people who are speakers and speaking coaches. Many of them are honest, but there are also a lot of them that are also trying to build their business as speakers at the same time they're trying to coach people. And there's sometimes a conflict of interest. So, to your credit as well, it's good to hear something like that. So, I got to meet you on Clubhouse initially in
Yes.
various professional speaking rooms, but then I got to meet you in person at the 2021 National Speakers Association Influence Conference in Vegas. So, a couple questions. One, what did you think of the event now that we've had some time to look back on it? What did you learn in 2021 compared to other years' events?
Yeah, good question. The thing that I learned first is that hybrid can work. Hybrid meetings can work. Um, One of the other things that I learned, they work better if you're not doing them from Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas.
Yeah, good luck with that
Um,
Wi-Fi.
Caesar's finds itself in the same space of a lot of hotels. And you and I travel in business, and we know that rarely does a hotel have good Wi-Fi. It's really rare. And sadly, Caesar's was not good. The good news, I think, for our industry, especially the speaking industry, is that people are stepping up and committing to getting better, because if we don't have good Wi-Fi, hybrid meetings aren't going to be very effective. And both Hilton and Marriott are pledging to put in millions to upgrade their Wi-Fi platforms. And so I think that this is good news for us. So coming out of the bad news of Caesars and their bad Wi-Fi, I think that we have things to look forward to.
Yeah, I agree. So question two, what do you think is the value for professional speakers on Clubhouse? And the reason I pivoted is just because that's where we met. But sort of a
Yes.
twist on that question, how should a speaker looking to get more business use Clubhouse as some sort of social media platform compared to other platforms where they can leverage video or
Yeah.
video plus audio or just the written word with blogging?
I don't think every speaker needs to be on Clubhouse and have their own show. I think it depends upon your expertise and what you want to accomplish by doing it. Um, I, I am on Clubhouse every Monday night for 2 hours, 6 to 8 Central. It's been great for me. I've sold a lot of books.
Really?
Yes. And, but I think that you have to answer that individually, depending upon what you want to accomplish. I think that there are so many rooms on Clubhouse that I think are a total waste of time, that are more fun for people who want to kind of make a hobby of using the platform. But for business, I think that there are several that are really good. But as I think I was asked this question by someone who speaks on leadership. And he said, do you think I should do a Clubhouse show? And I said, no, I don't. Because I think that he can better use his time writing, speaking, and promoting himself than on Clubhouse. I just am not yet convinced there are a lot of buyers on Clubhouse for
Oh,
speakers.
100%.
Yeah.
Could not agree with you more. I think if anybody can go into a Clubhouse room actually with a goal, which most of the rooms do not, it's just an endless pit of
Yes.
talk.
Yep. Yep.
Unfortunately, most people don't. So, who is the ideal customer for you? At what level are they that typically come to you for their speaking business? You're not a performance coach
No.
from a theater perspective.
Yeah, I don't do anything with presentation skills. I don't do anything about content formation. I don't help you write a speech or tell you what to speak about. But once you know your expertise, you have a good speech, and you're ready to take it to the marketplace, and you've got the presentation skills to do it, take it to the marketplace, then you're ready for me. So as you can imagine, lots of people who come to me are people who have been speaking for a little while, curating content, practicing their message. But I've also worked with some people to jumpstart a business if they have those key things. But most of the people who come to work with me are looking to take their business to the next level. And it's something that I really enjoy. In fact, I have clients who come back to me year after year just to kind of keep taking it to the next level, up leveling their game, maybe raising their fee and doing fewer events. For example, I just worked with a gentleman who's already a great presence in the speaking industry, in demand, does well. He's looking to raise his fee and speak less. And it's kind of the opposite of what you would think right now coming out of a pandemic. But he's had very good fortune so far.
So let's assume that we're back to some sort of new normal.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Whatever that is. Give you a grain of salt though, because nobody's got a great crystal ball right now.
That's right.
Although we do feel like it's going to be positive. If somebody knows their content and they want to step up that game, what is that? Define what you think that typically is from either a fee perspective or maybe an annualized income. What are people typically expecting when they approach someone like you, from taking it from X dollars to Y dollars in a speech, or from 100,000 to 500,000?
Well, that's really hard to answer, Shark.
Of course, that's why I'm asking.
It's very hard to answer. It depends upon the person, their expertise, their target market. What is their market experiencing at the time? And what their calendar looks like, what the speaker's calendar looks like. All of these things are a function of fee. And, contrary to many who may think so, there is no fee schedule that speakers should be following throughout their business. It really is an individual decision. And I'll tell you something interesting. Growth looks different to different people, depending upon where they are. Some people, growth means getting more speeches. Some growth means, as I just mentioned, my client who wants to speak less but make more. For many, growth has meant in the last year or so, adding income streams, ancillary income streams to a speaking practice, which I think is always a good idea. I thought it was a good idea before the pandemic. So obviously, I think it's even a better idea at this point. But all of these things that we do, that we add to a speaking practice, have to all fit in within our area of expertise and make sense, and they have to be marketable.
So I think we may have even spoken about this on Clubhouse, but one of the things that I struggle with, I think, when thinking about professional speaking, other than just being on stage, and this was obviously a big part of the conversation at Influence, and it's an ongoing conversation, is different streams of income, which we're all working to attain.
Yes.
How much of that does it concern you if somebody comes to you? Should they come to you looking to be a speaker that sells products, or is it just a grab bag of books, speaking engagements, got an online course and everything else? How do you help them define that business? Because it can be a variety for a lot of different people.
It can be. And so I look at how many different ways, how many different vehicles can we use to drive your intellectual property to the marketplace? That's what I'm looking at. And certainly a book is a great way to do it. A recording of a live program, another great way to do it. A course, a great way to do it. Consulting, small group consulting, mastermind classes, membership groups, all of these are great ways to drive additional income. A lot of it has to do with, again, what target market are you working with and how do they like to work? Because I think that a speech, Shark, should just be your first step. And after a speech, I want my clients to be able to say, what would it look like if we took the ideas, tactics, and techniques that I talked about on the platform and made them actually happen within your organization? I can help you do that. Take a next step with me, and I can work with your leadership team or your sales managers or your customer service supervisors, whoever that group is, to make sure they're actually going to implement the ideas that I talked about. That's money in the bank.
I know a big part of what you do is help people position themselves for that business growth.
Yeah.
And we hear all the time that speakers in particular have to narrow down to a specific, say, a topic or a focus, really to help them find that niche and position themselves. And we know people that speak about resilience, about connection,
Mhm.
collaboration, all the different topics. Do you think that speakers who also do courses or books that they always need to continue to follow in that focus?
I do. Here's why I'm saying that. The deeper you go into the deeper you go into your expertise and into a target, the more money you'll make. The market right now does not want a generalist. Someone, in other words, someone who speaks on customer service to anyone who is interested in customer service. Markets now are looking for people who have a depth of experience in a slim area of expertise, and they're willing to pay more for it. So if you do present present your expertise in a target market, I think that you create traction, you create momentum for your next speech, but you also create traction and momentum for other ancillary services that you may offer that will help drive that point home. And I think all of the things that you do besides giving a speech lend an element of accountability to that client. And a lot of companies, corporations, and associations are looking for that accountability. How can we make sure that paying thousands of dollars to bring you in, to put you in front of our people, is going to pay off for us ultimately? That's the question.
So I think through this example a lot, and I'm glad you just said customer service is one area. So a better way to niche that down away from being a generalist is maybe they speak to customer service in the home insurance industry, or
That's right.
is insurance broad enough? Or
Yes.
in your opinion, do they need to narrow down even further to life insurance, for example?
In this area, I call this financial services. Insurance is part of the financial services industry. And I think a target would be financial services. Now, you might specialize in insurance company. That might be a big area within your expertise. But targeting, it doesn't have to be quite that narrow, Shark, but it should be narrow enough that you can say financial services, manufacturing.
And that's a huge
retail.
market on its own.
Yes,
Yeah.
it absolutely is.
So when they've narrowed themselves down to that specific niche that everybody's happy with, where do you typically see the fees, at least from what you hear, increase, or the likelihood to book increase? Is it twice as many bookings or double the fee because they've niched themselves down? I mean, not necessarily they're different for everybody,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to put some sort of X factor on.
I can't put an X factor on it. And I'm sounding like I'm being squirmy. I am being squirmy. And this is why. The amount of bookings you get is in direct proportion to the amount of work you put into it for a speaker. There is no big surprise about this, but I think a speaker who narrows their vision from being a generalist into a certain target industry and markets within that industry has a likelihood of greater interest, much greater interest, realizing this. If financial services would be my target market, every time I speak to a bank, a credit union, an insurance company, I interest other banks, credit unions, and insurance companies in having me in. Now, it's up to me to make sure those other credit unions, banks, and insurance companies know that I recently spoke for, let's say I spoke for Bank of America. I am the one who needs to create the publicity around what I just did to leverage the event that I just did into others within that industry. So to say that you can double your interest, if you'll put in the work, you can. Triple your interest, if you'll put in the work, you could. But so much of this is about, am I willing to do the sales work, the daily grunt work, doing outbound marketing every day to interest those people in my target market and to keep them appraised of what I'm currently doing.
What are your thoughts on whether or not somebody as a professional speaker when they niche down to a topic in a specific industry, even if it's, say customer service and financial services.
Mhm.
How much of that do you think they can do to pivot to something else? Or do they basically need to build that career, not necessarily in that specific industry, because they may serve travel and hospitality next year and then they start working on that pretty heavily, but maybe they're not talking about resilience or connection or customer experience. I guess, can a speaker reposition themselves successfully over their career with a variety of topics?
Yes, you can reposition yourself. Now, let's say my expertise was in customer service, using this example that we're drawing upon. And let's say my marketplace might be financial services. I can go out to as many different markets within financial services as I want to. I can also massage my topic, customer service, into customer service and great communication, customer service for leaders, customer service for frontline employees. There's a number of ways you can do it. I think, though, your expertise is your expertise. And so I would probably be the one encouraging someone to look at different spinoffs that have a lot to do with their core expertise. I think, for example, if I'm in customer service and I decide I want to speak on time management suddenly, it's something that I can offer. But if it's so different from what I've been doing, it's going to be a harder sale. So I always say, go back to the point of least resistance, and it's going to be expertise and experience every time.
So in your book More Business, Make Money Speaking, you contend that even if you have the most interesting and important message to the world, it'll go unheard if you don't have a platform. Illustrate, if you will, what you mean by that, how to get that platform, and how to be well paid for your work.
Well, what I mean is, you can have the best program in the world, the most meaningful. You can be a terrific presenter. But if no one gives you the opportunity or the privilege of getting on their platform, it doesn't matter. So this is all about each person wanting to speak, to grab a hold of the reality that the only person who is interested in furthering their career is going to be themselves. And so it is our responsibility to take that great program we have out there and have others see it, position it well, so others can see the benefit of bringing us in. And so when I say you can have the best speech in the world, but it will go unheard, it just means if you aren't the one digging up opportunities. Shark, one of the things I tell new speakers, and boy, if I had a buck every time I said this in Las Vegas when you and I were there, I could have bought us maybe a slice of pizza at Caesar's.
Yeah, really.
But a lot of people come up to me and say, look, I really want to speak. I think I've got something to say and I really want to speak. And I tell them, okay, get your message, get the ability to deliver it well. But then comes the hard part. Realize that your first year in business, 98% of your time will be spent selling and marketing, and 2% will be presenting. Are you willing to put up with that? Because it's a great barometer, because this is really true. And then those figures start to change with experience, with deepening expertise and opportunity. But a lot of people don't realize how hard it is. And I'm sure that you've had people come up to you and say, after a speech of yours, Shark, this is really great. You get paid what for an hour? And they have no idea what it took to get the opportunity in the first place. So that's what I'm talking about, gaining opportunity.
Yeah, the time away from family, time traveling.
Yes.
The time you spent building relationships with those people that are paying you, it's totally different than most worlds. I remember a specific conversation we had when I was thinking about joining NSA. I asked you, what do you think somebody should do? Should they spend more money on coaching, or should they spend the money on NSA? And I just used a lower level fee, a lower level that it costs NSA. NSA doesn't, thank goodness, cost $10,000 or anything like that.
Yes. Yeah.
But your first reaction out of your mouth was NSA. And as a speaking coach, I thought it was very interesting that you didn't say, oh, give me the money. I'll help you get this, that, or the other. And obviously, that's part of it. That was a big part of it. But I really admired that you said NSA.
Well, thank you. And I truly believe that, because I am part of the equation. But I think that I like clients who have a broader knowledge about the speaking business, about presenting, about product, content curation, and selling. So I am a big part of that, because I'm the selling part, helping you sell what you do. But I like people to really get themselves into the culture of this business. And I think the way you do that is, one of the ways is what you and I did. We went to Las Vegas to our national convention, and we see great people on the platform. We get to meet people. We get to hear what's working and what's not. The speaking business is very bizarre when you think about it. When I was in the corporate arena, I worked for a little mom and pop called United States Steel Corporation. And we did not meet up with our competitors in the country and share what worked for us and what didn't work for us. So this was a real culture shock, this industry, to me. And, the good news is that we do share these things willingly. I think that a lot of people know that one of the best places to find great resources and expertise is National Speakers Association. That's why I am a big believer in it. I don't get a finder's fee if you join, but I do believe that if you want to do this for a living, you ought to align yourself with the only national association that aligns itself with certain ethical practices of doing business in our industry. And I think it means something to buyers. And so I'm a big believer in NSA, and I've been very active with them for a number of years.
I'm newer to it, but I couldn't agree more. The relationships that started out of that and the ones that have continued, and seeing a lot of people that I've known for years just there was fantastic. So
good. I'm glad that was your experience, and I'm not 100%. Surprised.
Absolutely. Yeah. Though another thing we started to touch on earlier, 2 decades ago, when I first got into speaking professionally, at most people were selling books or CDs.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This is really right before social media took off.
Yes.
Now everybody's got a Kajabi course, which seems to be a really important part of the conversation right now with other parts of that income. And I started to mention this earlier, but I'm wondering, and I don't have a crystal ball for this, how many people are going to occasionally speak just to push more products that are passive rather than speak a lot just to keep moving more books. And I think it's interesting that everybody's got a unique path. And it's not, not that courses are overtaking, but it really became super strong and prevalent from 2019 and onward.
Yeah. And that was the pandemic. There will always be demand for people meeting in person. And it has as much to do about learning as it does about employee engagement, getting everybody on board with what we're trying to accomplish. Meetings can handle that on so many different ways. A course cannot. A course is a one-on-one thing. And, there are many different speaking, what's the word I want to use? Ways that people use speaking to grow their business. Some, it's a big income source. Some speak for free just to promote their business, and that works out really well. Some have a speak to sell. They will speak for an opportunity to sell an offer, a big back end offer that they might have to an audience. But for people who speak for money, creating other ancillary ways that we can further develop our clients, I think, is a smart thing. Here's the big difference. In the years that I have been in business, having a number of ways to have income coming in is the only way to go. Back years ago in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, before I was involved in the speaking industry, speakers really made their money, Shark, by getting on a plane, going, speaking, getting on a plane, going back home, and looking for the next opportunity. And that's a terribly hard way to make a living. It's not a good way to make a living. And so being able to mix up media to pass along your IP, I think is what's smart. One of the things that we have learned is that different people like to learn in different ways. So if we can take our expertise and offer it in a number of ways, then we're meeting a lot of needs. And we're also deepening our expertise and deepening the perception of our expertise by the buyer.
What's the most important thing you think someone needs to be a successful speaker 2021 and going forward?
I think that they need to have great expertise and have a depth of expertise. I think that's the most important thing, Shark. This, by the way, has not changed. My answer would have been the same 5 years ago, and it will probably be the same in 5 years. I think what has changed are the number of ways we provide that information. We drive it to the marketplace.
There were a lot of people, though, that I've known that gave some fluffy speeches without the expertise. I think the audiences have changed. Their expectations are so much higher.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Listen, content rules. It did before the pandemic. It will after the pandemic. Content and engagement. Those are the things that rule.
So another tip that I want to ask you, what's the most important thing someone should do before they come to you or any great coach like you to position themselves to do better before they come to you?
You know, I think that Toastmasters is a fantastic organization. You and I got to see at Influence 21, Toastmasters was presented with the Master of Influence Award, which is a big deal. And I thought, oh my God, we didn't give it to them years ago, was kind of my thought, but better late than never. Because I think Toastmasters is a perfect starting off point for someone who thinks that they're interested in this industry. It's a great place to go and get presentation skills training for next to nothing, to rub elbows with a lot of experts, other experts who have something they want to say or are wanting to be more compelling in the way they say it. It's a great place to practice stories. It's a great place to practice material. I have a friend who has been speaking for 30 years. She's a good friend of mine here in St. Louis. She does very well. She will never miss a Toastmaster meeting. She's been a part of the same club for 25 years. And if she's in town, she goes. And I said, why? You were just out of town. Why are you beating feet over to a Toastmasters meeting? And she said, because it's a great place to try out material and get well-considered feedback. And so I think Toastmasters is a great place. Develop your expertise, pump up your presentation skills, and then visit an NSA chapter. We have chapters all over the country. Many of us are going to be virtual for quite a while, if not forever. And so you can take advantage of that. But, you know, the main piece of advice I give, Shark, to somebody who says, you know, I want to speak, what's your advice? My advice is to get the hell out there and speak. Speak to anybody who will listen to you, any group, anywhere, anytime. And every time you do it, ask for a testimonial letter or email saying, if you liked what I had to say, could you let me know? I'd like to use it to promote myself. And this is a great way to get started in our industry. Testimonials are the economic capital of a speaking practice. When I started speaking, I spoke everywhere I could in St. Louis, and I got testimonials all along the way. And the people who read those testimonials did not assume I wasn't paid. They assumed I was paid and that I did a good job. So I was able to leverage those into paying opportunities. I was conservative with my fee at first because opportunity was the most important thing. And then just grow, start asking for more money and lessen your expertise, narrow down. Don't widen your area. A lot of people think, you know, you'll love the fishing metaphor, Shark, but, you know, casting a wide net, that used to be true, but it isn't anymore. People want expertise, information that challenges and changes the way that they behave in their organization.
To that point, do you think that's changing the types of speakers that need to be created where they're not necessarily the entertainment driven content speaker, but more of the industry expert? Because those speeches often are very different, tactical versus
Yeah.
theory.
There will always be a market for that after dinner speaker, the more entertainment speaker who is doing Employees Appreciation Day. And there are some people who do very well in this niche. So I think you've just got to pick your niche. What do you want to do? I had a client that I've worked with for a number of years, off and on for a number of years. And he always spoke on leadership. And a couple of months ago, he said, I'd like to book some time with you. And I thought, great. So we got on, we started talking. He doesn't want to do it anymore. What he wants to do is he wants to do after dinner speeches, stories. He wants to be a storyteller. He's a great storyteller. I know because I've heard him present. And he, communicates through stories, as we hope we all do. So it doesn't have to be one thing fits all. You could be a high content speaker who offers a purely entertainment after dinner speech. This is not one size, you're not constrained. It's what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? And is there a market? That's the thing that you've got to ask yourself. Is there a market for what I want to do? And if there is, jump in.
So Lois, you're in the St. Louis area. Did you know that a shark was once reported as caught across the river in Alton, Illinois in 1937?
No, I didn't know that, but I might not look it, but I wasn't born until
neither was I, and I didn't assume that. They've been reportedly seen twice. Bull sharks. There's only two types of shark that can live through fresh water that we know of today. Bull sharks being one of them, but that was what was found. So I asked this of everybody that's been on a shark's perspective because I'm a fanatic about sharks.
Yes.
What is your favorite kind of shark and why? Could be a good favorite shark story.
What is my favorite shark? Besides you?
Besides, it could be me. That's also a good answer.
If it were my podcast, I would say that's my favorite too.
Bingo. All right. Well, Lois, it's that special time of the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions?
I'm ready.
Number 1, some of your friends are coming to, again, one of my favorite towns, St. Louis, for some touristy fun. Are you taking them to the Arch or to a game at Busch Stadium?
A game at Busch Stadium, for sure. I don't like heights.
Even the new Busch Stadium.
Yes.
Because the old Busch Stadium was pretty awesome. The new Busch Stadium's still good too.
The new one's even better.
Yeah.
New one's even better.
Yeah. The Arch is, if you like being trapped in an egg, rotating sideways for about 30 minutes.
You and I are kindred spirits. This is exactly what I think. Put me into a capsule, shut it tightly, and then hurl me to 630 feet in the air. It's not my jam at all.
No. All right. Number 2, better place to be a professional speaker. We're talking about stages, Las Vegas or Orlando.
Oh, I can't answer. I think they're both. Look, oftentimes I've had clients who have moved residences because of their airport and the city and the number of meetings that they're having. One of my clients actually moved from Bozeman, Montana to Las Vegas. Las Vegas is the biggest meeting center of the universe, the world as we know it. There are a hell of a lot of meetings going on in Vegas. And the airport is pretty crowded, but it's a good airport, lots of available flights. I would say the same thing about Orlando. So I'm going to have to say it's really a toss-up. If you're looking for more meetings, I would probably say Las Vegas. If you're looking for more other qualities in life, I'd say Orlando.
I know quite a few Cavett Award winners who live in both cities, but I will tell you that I would probably say Orlando because for 2 reasons. One, It's only about a 2-hour drive to one of my favorite shark diving
Of course.
places in Jupiter, Florida. And two, I don't lose as much money because I'm not putting money. I mean, now Disney is its own slot machine,
Yeah,
but I don't lose as much money when I go to Orlando.
I'm with you.
And I don't pay $45 for a piece of pizza. So,
Well, there you go. I only paid 64 for a pizza that was the size of my queen bed in my room. And when I answered the door, I asked the guy, will that really fit in this door?
oh my
He
God.
actually had to come in.
All right. Number 3, better for getting more speaking gigs. A large social following, and we're not talking Kardashian, but a decent sized social media following, or a well-known book. And it doesn't have to be a New York Times bestseller, but well-known, maybe either in an industry or just well-respected.
Well-known book every time, because I want you to consider that well-known book is in a niche marketplace. Only certain people are going to be reading that book. The odds of people on social media, if you have millions of followers, actually being a client, little.
Exactly. Well, it's like arguing a LinkedIn follower connection
Yeah.
versus somebody on TikTok.
Yeah, I think so.
And I'm sure your books have done the same for you as a coach as well, rather than just having a exorbitant amount of followers.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Hands down.
All right. Number 4, if you had a choice and you were helping somebody to become this as a future trophy that they would someday have, would it be an NSA Hall of Fame speaker or TEDx speaker?
Hall of Fame speaker. Listen, TEDx, I think, is great. I think TEDx has a lot of benefits going for it, not the least of which you can get some good film. But it is so watered down now that now it's, you're more unique if you haven't done a TED Talk.
Yeah, really.
So that's kind of the way I think about it. However, let me just say this. I am not putting down TED Talks. I think that they are great for a lot of people. For someone who really wants to be a professional speaker, though, not so much.
I think I would be comfortable with a Fred X or something like that, and just cut the video out where the ED is.
There you go.
So, all right, number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Biscuits. I Southern roots. I got to go with the biscuits.
Good choice.
But I'll take either.
Yeah, that's true. And thank goodness you didn't say gluten-free or something like that. So
no, I didn't.
No. Lois, where can people find out more about you, follow your thoughts on speaking, get the books, the coaching advice, and more?
Well, I suggest people go to my website, bookmorebusiness.com, and it has more information than you'll ever want to know probably about me. You can read about my books. You can read about how I work with clients, probably everything you need to know, or just email me, Lois at bookmorebusiness.com. And I'm on every social media platform. My engagement is heavier on some than others, but I'm pretty easy to find out there.
Lois, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for joining us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Thanks, Shark. My pleasure.
So there was my conversation with Lois Creamer, a speaking coach and recognized expert in the speaking industry, the author of Book More Business, Make Money Speaking, and she works with speakers, consultants, and experts who want to book more business, make more money, and fully monetize their intellectual property. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from our conversation with her. First, we talked about the market for speakers, and this takes from many parallels. Let's use a problem at your home as an example. Let's say the problem is with your pipes. The water's bad and you need that fixed ASAP. Would you rather call upon a general contractor to take a shot at it, or a licensed plumber who has expertise on fixing pipes? The answer is obvious to the owner of the home. However, if you're the fix-it person, then you'd probably want to be a general contractor because you believe that opens up the whole world to you. Well, as she said, the deeper you go into your expertise, the more money you make. It will also help you target your marketing because we have a finite amount of time to focus that directive. And I would rather look for people with pipe problems and charge more as a plumber. Happy to give a keynote on it, but just don't ask me to ever fix or unclog a drain. Ugh. Second, Met Lois virtually on Clubhouse. We were talking about whether you as a speaker need your own Clubhouse show. Not really. If you can utilize that time elsewhere to do something better, to make more money rather than just talking all day long on this channel, then do that. Focus your efforts on where there's a return and not just a pleasant distraction. Third, think about how many different ways can you drive your intellectual property to the marketplace? That's what she asks and points out. Great questions and thoughts on focusing on the audiences we serve and where they will buy and buy again. Could be a speech, but could also be a mastermind, book sales, consulting, and so on. It would be crazy for me to ever rely on just one income stream again. By the way, I highly recommend Lois's Book More Business book. It's fun and easy read. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time, and I'm so thankful for everyone who listens. Thank you to the amazing sponsors of Oak and Drips, and would you please consider writing a review and letting me know your thoughts on the show? I'm always honored when you write them. I read every one of them, and it helps me create better content for the both of us. Time to book more business and dive a little deeper, and please join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.